Let's talk about Trump's Bitcoin reserve. Hi, my name is Michael. I'm a young Aussie politician running as an independent for the electorate of Wentworth. A few days ago, Trump signed an executive order officially creating what he calls a strategic Bitcoin Federal Reserve, essentially a large holding of cryptocurrencies, mainly Bitcoin, owned by the American government. Now, this reserve is similar to a gold reserve with the idea that Bitcoin's value will rise in the future, allowing the government to withdraw profits and use them for spending. In theory, this could reduce reliance on traditional income sources like taxes or tariffs. But was this a good decision? How will this affect people like you and me? And should Australia create its own Bitcoin reserve? Now, what are cryptocurrencies? Before we can answer these questions, we need to establish a basic understanding of cryptocurrencies as a whole. Simply put, a cryptocurrency is a digital form of currency. It can be used for transactions, but isn't physically tangible. Now, cryptocurrencies exist on something called a blockchain, which is super complex, but in simple terms, it's a massive decentralized ledger or spider web, let's say, recording every Bitcoin transaction ever made. This ensures legitimacy and prevents fraud. Now, most Bitcoin exists online in digital wallets, often referred to as a hot wallet, which are accounts on platforms like Coinbase or Bitcoin. When someone buys Bitcoin, they don't physically own it like cash, but instead hold a digital contract verifying their ownership. For example, if I was to purchase 0.1 Bitcoin, which is currently worth about 12,000 Australian, my Coinbase account will display my balance. Behind this balance, though, is a long, unique string of numbers and letters. This is my contract proving my ownership of that 0.1 Bitcoin. Of course, we can go deeper into hot wallets, cold wallets, and other blockchain technologies like Ethereum and Solana, but for most people, this explanation is enough to grasp how cryptocurrencies work. Now, was Trump's decision a good one? Any form of wealth fund or reserve is genuinely a smart move for a government. Historically, wealth funds increase in value, creating a compounding reserve of assets that can be withdrawn when needed. A great example is Norway's $1.5 trillion sovereign wealth fund. Now, this fund is primarily invested into international stocks, along with smaller portions in gold, agriculture, and even a bit in cryptocurrencies. Now, over time, it has historically returned 9 to 10% annually, meaning Norway effectively earns $150 billion per year passively. Now, the government has created strict withdrawal policies to ensure long-term growth, allowing the government or the power in government at the time to withdraw only 3 to 4% per year, which is still a massive amount. To put this into perspective, just 3% of Norway's fund could pay for free education for all Norwegian citizens every year. However, stocks and cryptocurrencies are very different. So is a Bitcoin reserve a good idea? Now, me personally, I would say yes, but with some caveats. This investment isn't for the short term. Bitcoin is extremely volatile and has experienced significant crashes in the past, but it has historically rebounded to new all-time highs. So as more global capital flows into Bitcoin, its price should stabilize and increase steadily, making it a solid long-term investment. That said, Trump's lack of diversification is also a concern. A strong investment portfolio minimizes risk by spreading investments across multiple assets. The US government currently holds $17 billion in Bitcoin and $400 million in other cryptocurrencies. If I were in charge, I would strongly recommend diversifying, but as we all know, Trump works in mysterious ways, so we'll just have to see how this all plays out. How will this affect everyday people? As seen in Norway's example, a large wealth fund can generate a stable revenue stream for the government. Now, this has two extremely powerful main benefits. The first one is lower taxes. If a government earns enough passive income, it can reduce taxes on individuals and businesses. Now, this would boost the economy by giving people and companies more disposable income to spend as they choose. Number two would be increased government spending. A larger wealth fund allows for greater investment into public services like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and defense, all of which would benefit everyday citizens as well. Because of compound interest, a well-managed sovereign wealth fund continues growing indefinitely, meaning even more resources for the government to use in the future. However, the challenge is growing the wealth fund to a meaningful size. For example, if a sovereign wealth fund reaches $100 billion and returns 10% annually, that's about $10 billion per year. Now that's a large sum of money, but not enough to make a major impact in countries like Australia here, where the government spent about $600 to $700 billion last year. Building a wealth fund takes decades, but the rewards are enormous. Unfortunately, most politicians are short-term focused. Now, this is because they need immediate results to stay popular and win elections. This short-term mindset is why only a handful of countries have successfully grown a large wealth fund. Now, should Australia create its very own Bitcoin reserve? Absolutely. If you know anything about me, you'll know I am a huge advocate for cryptocurrencies. Not only should Australia create a Bitcoin wealth fund, but we should also expand our sovereign wealth fund to a productive size. Currently, our wealth fund, or sovereign wealth fund, is around $200 billion. Pretty good, but it is a sixth of the size compared to Norway's, despite having 5 times the population. This needs to grow. Growing it would mean lower taxes while simultaneously increasing social welfare programs, such as reducing university and TAFE tuition costs, which reduces the burden on a large amount of people. Now, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies may seem risky and volatile, but the more you learn, the more you realize their long-term potential. And that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on Trump's Bitcoin reserve in the comments below, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Take care.